Hello and welcome everyone. This is Nitesh Mishra from Federation of Indian Export Organizations, popularly known as FIO, India's apex trade promotion organization. And you are listening to the Voice of Exports, India's first exclusive podcast for EXIM community. On this podcast, we bring top performers from the sector who not only inspire but also reinvigorate among you to become one of them. Welcome once again to Voice of Export, FIO's podcast initiative. Today we have Mr. Rajesh Arcot, who is the CMD of VRDA Prime Overseas Pvt Ltd, which is a company of international trade professionals and have been working for over a decade now. Mr. Arcot, welcome to you to this podcast initiative of FIO, Voice of Exports. Please tell us about your company and introduce how you have come to the field of exports.
Thank you, Mr. Nitesh. We extend our sincere gratitude to FIO for launching the Voice of Export initiative, a timely and impactful platform that amplifies the experiences, challenges, and insights of Indian exporters. As an export house, we are the Prime Overseas Pvt Ltd deeply appreciates FIO's continued effort, not only supporting exporters on the ground, but also giving them a voice at the national and global level. This initiative allows businesses like ours to share our journey, learn from others, and contribute to the collective progress of the Indian export community. As I introduced, I am Rajesh Arcot. I am the founder and managing director of We Are the Prime Overseas Pvt Ltd, driven by a vision to connect Indian manufacturers and farmers with global markets. Having spent several years working closely with producers and understanding the gaps in international trade, and export compliances, we identified an opportunity to create a company that could offer transparent, dependable, and efficient export services. What began as a consulting initiative quickly transformed into a full-fledged export house, built on trust, deep sourcing networks, and a passion for empowering local producers. VRDA was established not just as a business, but a mission to promote Indian excellence globally, uplift rural entrepreneurship, and create sustainable export opportunities. We have encouraged and onboarded 30 plus manufacturers into international trade.
Okay, Mr. Arcot, what are the challenges you have faced during the exports process as a whole?
As an optimistic, what I say is, the challenges will come in every part of a business. However, how we have to handle that makes a lot of difference. So there are, regulatory and compliances, and also, complexities which we have to handle.
Okay.
Navigating the diverse export regulations, phytosanitary requirements, and certifications for different countries was a major challenge. Meeting strict documentation and quality standards required extensive learning and coordination with authorities and also custom departments. Vis-a-vis finding reliable supply chain partners also is a constant challenge. Identifying consistent quality-conscious manufacturers and farmers was difficult in early stages. So the VRDA invested in time in supplier education and also quality assurances. Unpredictable shipping conditions also, and also port congestions and delays in custom clearance impacted timelines as well, which is also a challenge. And if you go back to a few years back, there are geopolitical issues which is causing COVID-19 pandemic. Because of these issues, freight costs will be volatilely change, which also affect the profitability of the manufacturers and exporters.
Okay.
And
what I have learned from you is that you people have been into merchant exports, freight forwarding, and sourcing. So, how were you introduced to FIO services, and what made you seek us out in that?
Yeah, so we were actually looking for a reliable support system to understand the global trade ecosystem, ensuring regulatory compliances and build credibility in international markets. That's where we got introduced to FIO, as it is a go-to organization for export guidance, training, and policy updates. I myself got into a training with FIO and also certified.
Okay, talking about the current scenario, sir, How do you talk about that in terms of logistic disruptions, in terms of tariff war, in terms of what is happening across the globe in the international trade segment?
Yeah. As I do see there is a tariff wars and trade realignments as well happen. Right. So if you look at it, major economies like US and China been in tariff wars, right? And which also created a trade uncertainty, which also give us a opportunity for India and emerge as a preferred alternative sourcing destination. At VRDA, we see this as a chance to position Indian products, particularly agri commodities, textiles, as reliable and competitively priced alternatives in global supply chains. Diversification is a key, and we are actively exploring new markets that are seeking to reduce dependencies on traditional suppliers. And also, we have to thank ourselves and the efforts put in by the government. We have already, done India-UK free trade agreement, which will come in effect in the year 26, September mostly, I guess. So these opportunities, especially for sectors like organic rice, spices, and home textiles, where we are the prime is already active. This agreement could reduce duties, simplify documentation, and make Indian goods more attractive at the UK. We are preparing ourselves for internal compliances, labeling, quality assurance process to meet UK specific standards, positioning ourselves to be early movers when the FTA is finalized.
Okay. Talking about this recent tensions which has emerged between India and Pakistan, we also have some kind of trade disruptions with regard to trade with Bangladesh. So, how do you see this? All these conditions taken together, do you see it as an opportunity or as a challenge for our international trade sector?
We have to be optimistic. While Indo-Pak trade remains minimal, we believe that regional instability affects the investor confidence and logistical costs across South Asia. However, at VRDA, we focus on building trust with global partners by maintaining stability in our own operations. We also prioritize working with markets that have stable bilateral ties with India, ensuring our shipments are not impacted by regional tensions. As we know, we have already completed 14 FTAs, and the 15th one is the UK one. And as I mentioned, in global supply chain, there are disruption will be there. Like as we mentioned, COVID-19, whether it is Russia-Ukraine war or Red Sea crisis, these are all exposed fragility of global logistic delays, containers shortages, volatile freight costs, where some of them are biggest hurdles we do face as an export community. So we have to have our own plans how to deepen our roots trust with the countries and exporters. So we have to maintain our inventory buffers for high demand products, and we believe in supply chain resilience through adaptability and are continuously invested in smart logistics planning.
Okay, talking about the FTA, you just now talked about that. Talking about the trade deals which we are going to have, especially with US, with UK, with EU, with Oman. We are talking trade deal with preferential trade deal with Chile. So, how do you think all these trade agreements and deals with these countries will help India's foreign trade sector?
Certainly, we are moving towards the biggest economy, right? And the governments have been talking about it. We've been surpassed the Germany and France, and now we are going to sit with the Japan as well. So looking at that, these foreign trade agreements certainly will help Indian exporters to look at the demographies and geographies and to understand what are the required products, and also help by each of the countries, whether it is a source country by the India or destination by the FTAs done. So where the entire the product costing, whether it is an import country where the import duties will be reduced. Today, if you look at it with the India UK, we the importers or the exporters, both sides getting benefited, where 100% of the tariffs have been reduced to zero as well in some of the commodities. So that is the benefit of these FTAs.
Okay, talking about a follow-up questions related to FTA. When you talk about non-tariff barriers and you navigate through the non-tariff barriers, you talk about market access, standards, and compliances. How do you address such things when you are doing a trade deal with a particular country, and what should be taken into consideration looking at the trade and industry in finalizing such trade deals?
Yeah. So if you look at it, particularly, in terms of European, if you look at it, EU mostly, considers the quality, which is at a higher standards, where some of the parameters for products, where in other regions it is maintained at a zero point 0.1 level. However, they are insisting us at a 0.01 level, whether it is a pesticide residues or the quality of the product and some of the labeling. So the exporters have to ensure that the destination country, what they actually require, that we need to understand the compliances. We shouldn't be held in a situation where, because of these non-compliances, the commodities or the trade shouldn't be cancelled, and the exporter face a bigger challenges. So these are all non-negotiable, I can say, the compliances which we have to ensure that either sides, we not only at a source country we need to follow, at the same time we also need to understand the destination country compliances.
Mr. Arcot, you talked about compliances. As you are knowing that we are going to have FTA with EU, UK. So another important thing which comes into picture is making Indian exports green, sustainability, and people are talking about CBAM and carbon compliances, etc. and etc. So what do you think about all these things?
Yeah, so when we are moving into the trade wars, or the countries with developed countries, when we are doing with the trade, we have to follow these SPGs, where we have to be sustainability has also need to come in play, where the countries also outplay by putting dumping charges, or the packing which supposed to be handled properly. That shouldn't be in a case where the exporters falling trap into that. So we need to ensure that eco-friendly materials which is being used, and also during the produce itself, we need to educate the suppliers to ensure that they follow, so that this eco-friendly products which is being mostly marketed, which not only help for the country like us, developing country, but it also helps the developed countries, where they shouldn't consume more of a non eco the products.
Okay, talking about the export strategy for Viksit Bharat for 2047, which the government has also talked about, what should be the vision and policy recommendation in your view?
So, as I understand that Indian government, along with the apex bodies like FIO, are already inlined and working towards to the Viksit Bharat, where this, as in they have taken an effort to understand the exporter challenges, and at a policy level as well. They are changing, and those are all we could able to see in the FTAs. So if you look at it, today, there are many challenges which the exporters which are, going through. Those are all need to be, addressed at a policy level, which are already, discussed at a length, and they've been considered into the final prints. Um, However, so we need to understand that at the destination countries who are also signing the FTA with India, they also need to understand what is that Indian products are, and as in that we have many products which are from ages, like whether it is looking at oil products, or the products which are labor intensive, or the products which are technical oriented, or the products which are into a defense related. So these are all will help India into a position. I'm sure before itself, as in the target year which mentioned by the Indian government, I'm optimistic that we will be completing and continue this journey as in Vikasit Bharat.
Okay, one very last question which I would like to ask you. What advice would you like to give to companies similar to you or in general looking to export? Or what key learnings which you have learned during your journey of exports would you like to share with such companies?
So the key learnings in the export journey that we have to have. As I mentioned, the challenges will faced by the people. However, those challenges shouldn't be looked as a challenge, but we have to learn from those things and grow. And also it is a valuable lesson that we'll be learning. So as I initially mentioned and stressed upon, the compliance is a non-negotiable that we have to follow by the every exporter. So we need to ensure the compliances from either countries to be followed, and we also need to maintain the relationship with all the stakeholding. When I'm saying all the stakeholding, it is a supplier, buyer, logistic partner. So this transparency is very critical, so that the nurturing a long-term relationship leads to a better collaboration, and also the exporters will get a repeated orders, and it also help them in a smoother operation. So the global businesses also requires a local customization. Buyers in different regions have unique expectations. So from product packaging, taste preferences, or it is a language in documentation, tailoring a approach for each market significantly improve the buyer satisfaction. So and other stakeholding like logistics also the main part can make or break the entire export business. So understanding the freight terms, Incoterms, port dynamics, and last mile delivery. Also we have to have a right stakeholding, right team, and we also need to invest time in choosing the right freight forwarders. Is a game changer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arcot, for your insightful and detailed interview, which you have put forward and suggested during Voice of Exports podcast initiative. Thank you very much.
Voice of Exports podcast by FIO aims to provide important information and views on foreign trade, especially on exports, which will help both Indian exporters and importers. Any statements made by an exporter, importer, or an importing company in this podcast as guests reflect the views and opinions of that individual or the company. This podcast does not constitute an endorsement by the FIO of the individual or the company, his or her or its employer or affiliated entity. The specific information or views provided, resources mentioned, or products or services endorsed or offered by that individual or the company, his or her or its employer or affiliated entity. FIO assumes no responsibility for the accuracy, completeness, or timelines of the information provided by the guest or the company in this podcast, or for the decisions made and reliance on any information provided by the guest or the company in this podcast. We thank you for listening to this episode of Voice of Exports podcast service brought to you by the FIO. For more information on how you can start exporting, please visit our website www.fio.org.